Welcome to the Practitioner's Heart, offering practical Buddhist wisdom for therapists and healthcare workers. If you are keen to deepen your practice beyond the theoretical understanding of Buddhism, if you are finding it hard to calm your little active mind after therapy work, I welcome you to join me to dive a little deeper. Each episode, I'll be sharing some common issues that therapists may face when integrating and practicing awareness, compassion within themselves and also supporting clients. I'll be sprinkling some pearls of wisdom that I've learned from my master and teachers that will be helpful as internal resources. I'll also be interviewing other therapists who are on this spiritual path together to share their experiences of how they practice wisdom and compassion in their daily lives. I want to let you know that you're not alone. You are part of a bigger community who aspire for greater soul alignment, growth, and awakening. That we can strike a balance of juggling our busy modern life as therapists with a clear mind and an open heart. I hope to inspire more practitioners to explore deeper spiritual meaning and purpose on our path to enlightenment. I'm your host, Po Gan, a psychologist, a Buddhist practitioner, a parent of 2 children, a fellow human being with a busy mind, but with a great inspired vision for collective awakening. Let's begin. Welcome back to the Practitioner's Heart. You know that feeling after a gathering where something real happened? Like your face is still smiling from inside out after meeting your friends. Your heart is full, buzzing. I wrote this podcast episode after our first Bodhi Inner Path Circle's first reflective book club session on Friday, but didn't have time to record until now. But today's reflection is a combination of what we have discussed in the book club and also some extra points that I thought will be relevant to you listeners at home. So we'll see how it goes. So on Friday, when we had our first session, we didn't have a full group. So some of us couldn't make it. And in the end, there were only 3 of us. It was still really lovely to see the familiar faces, to feel that connection, and also knowing that we are all on the same path of cultivation and practice together. So we read a chapter from Dynamics of the Mind by Reverend Ming-An Chen, and it talks about the underlying meaning of Buddha nature. And the discussion went everywhere our hearts wanted to. The distinction between Buddha nature and the mind, the different levels of mind consciousness, and how our 6 senses come into contact with the world and begin differentiating, forming thoughts and concepts and judgments, opinions about ourselves and others. And we also touch on what is soul consciousness, what is store consciousness. I think one of the things that I took from the session is that both of them are rural, so they stay in rural Australia. When they say that they couldn't find a Buddhist community or Sangha where they live in their town, there is no community that they can practice with, I felt it land in my chest. And I think that's the reason why I went into all of these effort to create this online community, because I know how lucky I am to have a community that I'm connected to. You have heard me talking about that, the community that I have been practicing in the last 20 years. I feel very lucky and I wanted to share it with people that I have the affinity to come across with. And hence, this online community becomes this platform for us, for therapists who have this shared passion and love for practicing Dhamma together, even though there were only 3 of us, and even though it was on the screen, there was so much joy, loving kindness, and compassion in the air. And I think that is the whole idea of the practice. And one of them said that even by reading together, that embodied sense of being gave her that sense of ease, and her mind was quiet and not active at all for the first time in that day. It is something that really stood out for me in that moment after that circle. Another thing to know is that we are not alone on this path. It is quite beautiful, and that energy of being with in that community. If you are curious about Buddhism and how do we actually practice, I just really want you to know that you are welcome to join us anytime. And even if it's just for a month to give it a taste and see whether you like it or not, that's totally fine too. It is still open, and I'm still looking forward to have people joining us from here on. I think it's really nice that one of the therapists was saying that it doesn't matter if it's 5 people or 20 people, but she's just loved the ideas of us coming together, discussing and practicing meditation together. So I've got a few points that I have put together about the chapter. I thought maybe you can get a taste of what we are talking about in the session. And I also prepared some of the additional points that I thought would be relevant to you. Here's some of the moments that I love. So the first one is about what gets watered grows. We were talking about cause, conditions, and effect. It's a very simple concept in Buddhism, and how this mind, the temperament, the reactive patterns all arose from the conditions, the context where we are raised in, the culture, the family, the relationships that we have with other people. And one of our therapists said, this is behaviorism. What gets strengthened becomes stronger, and what gets weakened becomes weaker. And isn't that cool that 100 years of Western learning theory, reinforcement, extinction, or that neuropsychology of neurons that fire together, wire together, is something that is relevant or resonates with Reverend Chen's text that describes the same law. Every experience that we have plants a seed in our consciousness. Every time a seed is watered by our attention or repetition or reactivity, it grows a little bit stronger. Every time when we don't feed it, we're aware of them but not continuing to pursue them, it weakens. It is like that 2 wolves story, right? There are 2 wolves inside us. One is loving and compassionate, and the other one is fierce and angry. Which one is going to win? The one that you feed the most. So it really applies to the clients that we see, that anxiety spirals. It's like a well-watered seed. Our own inner critique that pipes up after a hard session, when we buy into that story and brew over them again and again, it is like we're watering them faithfully for years and perhaps decades. And through that shaping of reinforcement and punishment, we are reinforcing that cycle, and it becomes our identity, isn't it? Or it becomes a part of us that is so strong that we take them as our identity. This seed grows. My teacher once said that our mind is like a piece of land. We get to decide what gets planted on that land. If you plant beautiful flowers, it will bloom and blossom, and it will turn into a beautiful garden for you to appreciate. And you can smell the fragrance of the flowers. At the same time, if you just let it be, sometimes weed will grow and cover this vacant land, and it will be messy, unattended garden full of weeds. But the good thing is, nothing in this storeroom that we have is a life sentence. Whatever that arises from the causal conditions can cease when the conditions change as well. So through deliberate cultivation and practice, we can change the conditions, what happens between cause and effect. It is like in behaviorism that if we change the context, the outcomes change. We get to decide if we wanted to have a garden, a beautiful, fragrant garden, or a wasted land full of weeds. We're all gardeners. The only question is, what are we reinforcing? What are we watering? As a therapist who just started level 1 and 2 training in EMDR last year, I too find similarities and resonance in both Buddhism and EMDR too. And you might be surprised. And so some of you who practice EMDR, we talk about the traumatic memory is stored and frozen in time. And when a condition touches it, it sort of ripened, and maybe it is a sound, a smell, or certain tone of voice. And EMDR called this the unprocessed memory network. And in the Buddhist traditions, that's a seed meeting the conditions that sprouted from the memory store. So reprocessing is letting the seed that was planted before, that was scary, that was not stored and processed, to be met, calling them out, and to witness them with full awareness in safety, so that it can transform instead of continuing to be raw and triggering, and we continue to replay that unprocessed memory, raw memory, again and again, and it impacts on our life. And EMDR believes that we all have that innate healing capacity. Our Buddha nature, that pure awareness nature in clients or in us as therapists, is that healing capacity. When we are asking our clients to notice that, we are prompting the clients to observe what shows up with awareness and bringing in the interweaves or some of the resources to help them, to let them know that that was in the past and it is not happening right now, and how conditions have changed. That was back then when you were a kid, and this is now. And yes, so the seeds will sprout, but it no longer holds that emotional charge when it is understood, witnessed, and processed. Well, on the surface level, it seems like there are very different approaches and processes in terms of Buddhism and EMDR, but the underlying understanding about our pure awareness, our mind consciousness, our inner arising and ceasing of thoughts and seeds applies to the modern therapy models quite seamlessly. The next part that I wanted to talk about is that for the application for ourselves as a therapist, as a human sitting in the therapist chair, I think it is the reflections that we have is not just about choosing the right therapy model for our clients and practicing which therapy models. Sometimes it is about us, the one that is sitting in the therapist chair, holding other people's storms, emotional storms, day after day, one after another. Sometimes we have 5 to 7 clients a day. What I've come to understand and believe is that practicing the Dharma isn't something that we do alongside our clinical work, like a hobby that keeps us sane. I think awakening the mind is actually the deepest form of practitioner care. I think the Bodhisattva way of observing our inner world with awareness while doing things that benefit other people and ourselves, to take away the suffering of others and to give loving kindness and joy to people that we come across. I think every session, at every moment when we are interacting with our clients, we are cultivating and practicing. One of the important integration of Buddhist teachings is that we practice resting in pristine awareness, that clear, luminous knowing. If we are one with our Buddha nature, the pure, pristine awareness, something shifts in how we sit with suffering, whether it is our own or our clients. Whether you are sitting with grief, rage, despair, depression, it moves through the space of awareness rather than lodging in us. We witness them fully, more fully actually, because we're not racing against it. We're not holding and we're not absorbing them. We're not burdened by it in the IFS terms. The emotional weight of the session doesn't follow us home and sits on our chest in the midnight. It's not detachment. It's quite the opposite. It is this pristine clarity that allows us to stay open and curious for what shows up every moment. This thought that pops up here and now, this client sits in front of me here and now, and the next one, and the next one, without getting burdened or closing because of the pain or suffering. The same presence that protects us is the presence that heals them. When we are settled in this open, spacious awareness, we become that safe space, a place where our clients can have to witness their own paths, their own inner arising and ceasing, their own past seeds surfacing as memories, with what act call the observing self, or the Dharma call the awareness that is emptiness in nature, omnipresent, boundless, limitless, and spacious. It is constant, unchangeable, undestructible. And actually in IFS, in internal family systems therapy, they talk about the therapist being in the self-energy, and also we're guiding and allowing the clients to be in the self-energy. The self-energy that they talked about that has that 8 qualities: calm, curious, compassionate, clarity, confidence, courageous, connected, and creative. This self-energy allows the client's parts to feel safe enough to speak. What is that if not the therapist or the client's own Buddha nature, the pure awareness that made it possible for them to do that in the room? The founder of IFS, Rick, says that the self was never damaged and needs no healing. Nothing to be added, nothing subtracted. That is the clear blue sky that's always there, that sun that is always there. Yes, the clouds may come and go. There might be thick and heavy clouds, stormy weather, but the witnessing self is always there. It is talking about the same thing. Lisa Dion, the famous play therapist and trainer, said that we are the most important toy in the play therapy room. Regardless of what therapy models that you use, I think these underlying conversions is that our presence is the main ingredient for healing, which means that our practice to cultivate presence is not self-indulgence. It is actually a clinical responsibility, a reflexive and reflective practice, which is important now when we're talking about our core competencies as a psychologist, isn't it? And I think by incorporating spirituality and practicing Buddhism, cultivating this pure, pristine awareness, it is that embodied, awakened state of being that provides the healing to take place. I think that is why I'm so passionate about Buddhism, because you can actually use it and it is highly relevant to our personal life and also our work life. The next point that I wanted to say is about this attachment of I. So in the circle, we talked about the seventh consciousness, which is our soul consciousness, the mind's constant clinging of I, me, and my, this clinging of I and ego. It kind of runs beneath everything. And for therapists, I think that is a familiar voice that sounds like, oh, did I handle that session well? Should I have said something different? Am I good enough at this? What if I'm failing them? And, oh, like, am I okay? And am I practicing right? That constant flow of inner critique or voices that we talk to ourselves. Every therapist that I know has one inner critique voice. The other day, one of the supervisees actually talked about how to not feel the anxiety of feeling that I'm not good enough. But I guess it is actually a very easy trap that we fall into, especially for early career psychologists, that we wanted to feel that competence and to have no doubts and to feel that we're good enough, or perhaps a really competent psychologist. The idea is not to get rid of that feelings. And the Buddha's teaching offers us to know that these voices, the inner critique, is not a character flaw to be fighting against. It is an inner sentient being like it arises and it ceases. The start of a thought is a rise of an inner sentient being. And when the thought goes, is the ceasing of the inner sentient being. It arises because a past seed has sprouted. What are the seeds? This part of us that is doing that anxious job of protecting the I and ego, the seventh consciousness that continues to be there. Because it has in the past helped us to feel safe and help us to follow and doing the right thing. I think we all wanted to do the right thing, wanted to do good for our clients. So when we practice mindfulness, really practice on the cushion or between clients, two things happen. First, we will catch these inner critique as an arising, a thought appearing in our awareness, and seize in our awareness. They are not truth about us. It's just whether there is a difference between two statements that I'm not good enough, anxious, versus anxiety is here. Anxiety is present. Here is a thought that I'm not good enough. We do not jump into conclusion or buying into that as our identity, as this I am not good enough. And the second one is a little bit deeper, where we start to see through that this is the I that is defending, the ego that is defending us. It is not the self-energy. It is only a part. If this I, this identity that we hold on to very closely and very attached to, is a construct that was built over time. Since we were a baby born into this world, in this lifetime, with all the experiences that shaped who we are, and say, oh, this is Po, and Po likes X, Y, Z. We label this person as Po, but this is not all of me. Because who am I before I came into this world? Who am I after I die? And practically, when we can really understand from this perspective that the burnout started to loosen that grip, because burnout isn't only because we have too many clients to see or too little rest. Yes, it is that too, but it is also an accumulated weight of us that believe in an identity that it must carry everything. We hold on to this identity that we have to fix things or never fall short. And that's that schema that is deeply rooted. And all of these perfectionistic thinking, people-pleasing stories that get in the way. But when we know that some of these are just labels, schemas, and seeds that were planted and repeated, strengthened over time, and there is actually no solid I, they were only a construct, then where are all of these identity resting from? If we are viewing things from this perspective, it's not that we care less, we grasp less. We are less likely to attach and cling on to this identity as solid. When we are practicing in aligning ourselves with that pure awareness state, we no longer identify strongly to a set of identity. This self as content we talked about in ACT. And in Buddhism, we call this the fake I, the small I or ego. So when we are practicing being with our pure pristine awareness, we will have less burnout, less torment from the inner critique, and more openness in our heart. And I think when we were in that book club session, that embodied state of being, we all feel really at peace. That openness was there with us in the circle. So I came out of that book club session thinking that, wow, we have only had 3 therapists and 1 screen and 1 book chapter filled with contemplative wisdom teaching. And we have this shared understanding and recognition that these psychology models and this understanding from the wisdom tradition can be very similar, and they are like in Buddhist traditions talk about the fingers that's pointing to the same moon, right? And that same moon is closer than we think. It is that innate, natural, pure awareness, reading the chapter, listening to the podcast right now, the presence of us sitting in the therapist chair doing the work. Our work asks us to sit with these strong emotions every day. The difference between being overwhelmed and being present is whether we're cultivating this awareness in each moment. And observing our ongoing flow of experience, whether they are sensations as our 5 senses coming into contact with the external environment, the feelings, the thoughts, the mental images, the past seeds and memories replayed in our mind, moment to moment, with pure awareness, neither rejecting nor attaching to them, whether it is between clients, cooking dinner at the kitchen, stopping at the traffic light. My invitation is for you to pause and ask what is aware of this thought. Don't answer it, because more answers are just more thoughts. You'll watch them, observe them, arise and cease, just like everything else. Am I on an automatic pilot of that flow of ongoing pursuit of one thought after another? Or am I in this state of clarity of all the experiences? My invitation for you is to observe within, resting in that open, spacious awareness. And I'll end with a quote that I share in the session. It is a quote that I saw on a Facebook post by Venerable Panakara, the monastic that led Walk for Peace in United States. I thought this is a really nice summary of the cultivation and practice. Life will bring moments of great joy and beauty, just as it brings discomfort, uncertainty, and emotions we didn't ask for. All of these experiences, the light and the heavy, are part of the rich landscape of being alive. True wisdom comes not from trying to hold on to the pleasant experience or escape the difficult experience, but from cultivating a mindful, steady heart that welcomes every moment with calm clarity, not untouched by life, but unshaken and deeply at peace within it. And if you are a therapist who loves the Buddha Dharma but hasn't found your Sangha community yet, please hear this. You are not alone, and that's the whole reason our circle exists. You can join us anytime. So until next time, may you meet every arising and ceasing, every part that shows up with compassion. May your presence be a refuge, first for yourself, then for everyone who sits across from you. From my heart to yours, may you be with your pure awareness. As we close our practice for today, I want to thank you for sharing this time. If this episode resonated with you, the most meaningful way to support the podcast is to share it. Share it with a colleague or leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps our community to reach other people who need it. Until next time, keep your heart open, keep your mind clear and steady. Go be your amazing self as you awaken yourself and others. See you next time. Just a gentle reminder that our conversation today is for inspiration and education only. It is not a substitute for therapy or clinical supervision, and our time together doesn't constitute a therapeutic relationship. If today's episode resonated with you and you would like to have a steadier, more grounded way of being, both in your work and in your personal life, you're warmly invited to explore the Bodhi Inner Path Circle. You can learn more or join us through the link in the show notes, and I'd love to welcome you into the circle. We're starting in July every second Friday at 1 p.m. Western Australia time for an hour. So one session every month will be purely guided meditation practice. The other session every month, the fourth Friday of the month, will be all about coming together in a group, engage in reflection in a book club. We read Buddhist book chapters and teachings. We then reflect on how we integrate the teachings and practice as therapists. It is going to be a nurturing and nourishing way to wrap up the work week. So register now to join us on the 10th of July. With the founding member offer opening now, it is a great investment for your well-being and your wisdom life. And I pledge to donate $10 out of every membership every month through Support the Building Fund to build a meditation hall in WA. So your membership, your practice with us every month also support a bigger good cause to enable more people to practice and benefit from the teachings. So self-care does not need to be done in isolation. Self-care can also be done in collective care in community.